Okay, you're live. This is it always does this glitch thing, so I don't know if it's recording or not. This video I kind of meant to do about a week ago, so we're not too far behind. I watch women's channels, maybe not more than men's channels, but different type of content to see kind of what's going on in their space. But this is not a video just for women, or this being a menswear channel, it's not a video just for men either. So the message also can be for both. I don't know if I'm going to do a video. I probably should. I think just to get this out there before Valentine's Day, boycott Tinder, from what I've seen, not just using them as a scapegoat. I don't know how much you're going to find the true connection you're looking for if you're looking for something more than, casual hookups, that kind of thing. But I'm not going to go into all that here. But today is football day, so I decided to make the kind of video that maybe nobody's going to watch. Even if you don't like football, you might still be roped into watching football later. So do this now. Here it is. It's one of those things. So I didn't watch all of one of the videos I wanted to watch. It's kind of long, and it started off with 3 minutes of her doing her hair and makeup and not really getting to the point that I wanted to see. So I haven't made it through that one yet. So maybe I'll do a rebuttal again sooner than later if I see more stuff, or maybe I'll just put some additional information in the comments or the description later tonight if I see anything, excuse me, really relevant to go into about that particular creator. And I don't talk about that one in terms of decor and stuff very often. I talk about that one in terms of fashion and clothing a bit more often. So we'll see how it goes. But they don't just do one type of content either. So, the other thing I want to get out of the way first, I did finally sign up for that buy me a coffee feature, or pizza. So if you're so inclined, the link in the video description should work, or I posted it also in the community link. So if you enjoy this content or my other content more, and you clicked on this for some reason and made it 3 minutes in while I'm not doing my hair or my makeup, surprise, surprise. Please go ahead and feel free to donate me a stipend for a meal or whatever the deal is. So the one video that I borrowed the title card for the thumbnail, and the middle of this, I guess I should have said part 1, part 2, part 3, but I'm not going to bother. That is a little more specific to, the main title. The other 2 videos aren't necessarily directly, or 3 video, or there's another one there's 2 that kind of touched on similar topics, but they came at it from completely different directions. So the part about the main thing is the middle of this, and I don't know why I can't find my, here it is. It was stuck to this other paper. Okay, so part 1, we're still in part 1. We're in part 1. Okay. And this will not be a very long video. I know I say that at the beginning of every video, where I then proceed to talk for 50 minutes or something. This will not be that. Okay. So in part 1, I think she was this is why I should have recorded it a week ago, because it would have been more fresh in my head. But this video is from 2 weeks ago already. And I think she was trying to talk about how to maximize small spaces, but also which doesn't really fit into my top priority in the same manner. And two, uh, this is an individual I would love to, well, not love, but would be interested to put them in certain spaces that are small and see how much PTSD they actually get. I've said this before, I think. You think you can style that? Okay, try and style this. And, you know, we'll see where you get. First, you got to, especially the bathrooms. And so this started with the bathrooms. One of the things they said was to put in the actual tub area a shelf above the bath. And to me, that just is stuff that's going to fall in the tub and get ruined, right? Like, I know. And that's not some way I'm going to style. I don't know that that's a trend per se as much as one of their ideas. But this related to the other video. Both of them were talking about kitchen stuff and the cabinets. And one of the things that the one was showing was how to use some tea kettle or something. And both this and the bath have the same problem. Wood reacts very poorly to steam also. Because when I was young or younger, my mom loved this one tea kettle that she got. It was a metal steel round thing. It probably had a copper bottom. I don't remember. But she never angled it out, possibly because afraid to get a blast of steam in the face. I don't know, or something. But it was always angled in such a way that it literally destroyed the cabinets, you know, over time. And she never even noticed, never even thought about it. And I was too young to know or care until we, you know, go to sell the house or whatever, you know. Then, oh, this looks like crap, you know. The other, I mean, one kitchen we had to refurbish entirely because we had water damage from an incorrectly installed pipe or some nonsense that was going to the ice maker in the refrigerator or some such thing. And it was such a shame to see those cabinets getting ruined again already by the same exact, like, no, you got the new cabinets, don't put the kettle there. And like I said, initially the other one, it went unnoticed, but then you get the pretty ones and you don't want to damage them. Okay. So then the next thing was put a shelf above the bed, above the headboard kind of area. Again, that's just objects that are going to fall on my head. Both I and that creator live in the earthquake state. So take that. I don't like to put anything more than like a poster on that wall if I think that it could come down. No picture frames, especially not with anything glass. Sharp wooden edges, not what I want above my bed. Okay. Most of the stuff they kind of show when they do, I don't have all the fancy images that they show it. Some of them are nice, some of them are too cluttered for me or too busy or whatever. And mostly it seems like knickknacks and junk anyway. Like, why did you need that there? Certain things can be mementos, you know, or whatever, I guess. So maybe they have a meaning to that owner that is lost on me. But to me, it's a simple picture or some kind of artwork is good, but not necessarily, again, where I want to place it. Mostly it was pastel girl room stuff, so I kind of gave up. Like I said, my bathroom, I've had different small bathrooms. They're usually tucked away. I know I'm kind of going out of order. They're usually tucked away, and it's like a guest bathroom kind of situation, not your regular bathroom. Those are the things that I guess you can try and style them, you know, if you have a theme kind of going on, if you really want to. But again, I think some of them are so small that they would just give her PTSD rather than solution ideas for zhuzhing up. But, you know, they try to find ways to prove me wrong. but again, it's not usually ways that I would want to pursue anyway, because it's too bright or too gaudy or whatever. Then there was some stuff by the bed that I forget exactly what this was, but it was mostly stuff I would trip over in the night when I'm trying to go to the bathroom. This is kind of a studio problem issue solving. I never really lived in a studio apartment, so I never really decorated that kind of a space. But I did, trying to separate rooms where there's not rooms, that kind of thing. It's hit or miss, how much obstacles I would want. Again, in the middle of the night, if there's an emergency situation. One thing was like I don't know, little chairs or something that were just there for decoration, or they sit in a nook or something, but you can't really access them. So to me, it's like, what good is a seat one cannot use? Seating space as visual design decor instead, ? Small room enough already issue. So you're making a small room smaller by putting in more things that don't really fit, I guess was what I was trying to say. See, some of them they want to add, I forget which one was which. Because some of them they want to add seating that is functional, but they don't have the room to put in a full chair. Like that I kind of understand. Whereas this was like, sit on the floor and listen to records. Was like my youth already anyway. Now I'm like, no, thank you. I don't sit on the floor like ever anymore. No. Right. Yeah, like I said, I'd have to rewatch the video to remember exactly, because there was two different videos, but this time a different woman than the other two different videos. and then where they intersected again, they were coming at it from slightly different place. So I don't failure on my part. I don't remember exactly what the one was trying to say more than the other one was trying to say. But the one was trying to say use like some of them will tell you to put, a thing where it has storage inside, and some people will argue you'll never be able to access that storage. Depends on what the piece is and how the storage stacks, because I have bookshelves and things where it can be hard to access the lower shelves if there's stuff, or dressers if there's stuff in front of it. Like this dresser, I don't use the bottom drawer anymore because there's a trash can there and a guitar and whatever. And anything that goes in that bottom drawer, I forget what it was. And it was, so I ended up emptying that and putting most of that stuff in the garage, where, yeah, I can't access it, but I know I'm not going to need it until summer anyway. So fine. But then other stuff, like a piano bench or something, you can access it most of the time because you're not using it most of the time as furniture. You're using it as storage. Or those long chests that go along the entryways. I kind of want to get one of those, but I don't really have a good way to put it by an entryway. With, I don't know, the current layout. I did have a studio kind of situation when I was younger, and I never got to decorate it the way I wanted it to do, though, because there was a pool table that took up the whole middle. And I did end up using the pool table kind of as my art studio easel for a long time because it had fallen into neglect, and it wasn't completely damaged or unusable or anything as a pool table, but, my sister's friends who used to come over and use it all the time weren't coming around anymore and that kind of thing. So it was just like, and I don't use it for rolling balls around by myself very often kind of thing. But so I never got to really decorate that room the way I wanted to, but it did serve as kind of a music studio for a while, but not ever a living space. But I did have a couch in there and some other stuff. But it also did not have plumbing either. So if you wanted to use the restroom, you had to go into the house. So it wasn't the same kind of situation as a studio apartment. Okay. Anyway, so that not as helpful as it could be in terms of, you know, how would you decorate that kind of space. I guess I could touch on that more in another video where I'm talking about things that I would encourage you to do, but since the title of this is things you shouldn't do, I'll go into part 2 now, which is literally the home decor I hate part of the, or trends with their buzzword. I don't know so much about trends, though these specifically do discuss trends more. And when I watched that video, I was surprised to agree just with most of it, especially the big one. Hang on, I have the cards here. Where are they? So I should do these in some order. Yeah, so the big one was especially the old houses turned, or I should read the card first. I keep clicking the wrong button. I'm sorry. Poorly flipped historical homes, and there was title cards, but I don't want to insert their title cards in my. I might put them in the community menu. So yeah, this is literally where you are taking a beautiful 100-plus-year-old house and trying to make it look like more modern or Brady Bunch house. Yeah, especially the old houses turned new versus the new houses trying to look old-fashioned was the second card, which was modern farmhouse. So it was like two sides of the coin, right? And I had friends, parents who were doing something, not the exact same version of modern farmhouse, but their houses were not Victorian houses. Their houses were, 1950s post-war single family starter unit kind of houses, which is like most of the San Gabriel Valley and half of the San Fernando Valley probably. And, famously slightly different construction styles, though, for, Levittown and Long Island. It's all, known for being those little, everybody had an equal plot of land. Everybody had an equal number of rooms. Everybody had, cookie cutter thing. So those houses kind of need to be modernized, but they don't need to be completely retrofitted. Like they all came with plumbing. So again, it's not like you have a house from the 1860s that never had a real bathroom. It always had an outhouse, that kind of thing. And you're trying to make plumbing in a room, totally different thing, right? But when they do, so when the generation the boomers, what they were trying to do was make a rustic look in the suburbs, but the houses didn't completely contradict that in concept all the time. Like a lot of them had kind of a southwesty stucco look to them already, so making them kind of ranchy was kind of a natural fit. It was kind of California, but how much you made it, try to look more like a stereotypical, farm from someplace that isn't here, because California was totally agricultural, most of it for a very long time until the boom in the 80s or whatever. So again, it's kind of splitting hairs in some ways, but again, if you take a nice Addams Family house and try to make it into the Jetsons or Buck Rogers or Star Wars or something, what are you doing? It's no. Whereas like this is just a hodgepodge. Excuse me, lemonade. This is just a hodgepodge. I didn't really, it's just a filming room at this point for these little videos and stuff. So I don't have any specific real theme decor other than, what was lying around. But, behind me, I have like kind of the beginnings of the coastal cottage theme, which is probably the one I would decorate the most with if I had a little extra money and time and really wanted to put more thought into it than, you know, dark academia or, you know, ooh, the globe. I got a globe, but a globe can be nautical too. So, but then I also have like, you know, old radio, but then seashell lamp. the radio being more the old timey thing than the other ish. Like yeah, like I said, don't necessarily do this exactly. But at the same time, I'm not. I'm in a totally modern style house. Like I've said in almost every decor video I've done on this channel. I could try and make this look like an English Oxford library, and nobody would buy it. You know, they'd walk in and be like, "What?" As much as you know, I like that style. I'm not trying to turn this into that. Same with the farmhouse. This is not a farmhouse. Okay, it's not going to be a farmhouse. I don't like those barn doors that slide either. That was the next card, sliding barn doors. Yeah, I think that is kind of wrong. This one I talked about in my travel to Texas video last summer. I keep clicking the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Unfinished wood furniture. There was a place that had, some of it was nice, but it would have been just much more worth the money to me if they had finished it. I don't want splinters. I don't want my clothes getting I don't even like these kind of particle board drawers where the clothes kind of stick in them and you get little wood chips in your sweater or whatever. Like, no. Finish the furniture. We're paying you. I know it's kind of a rustic look, so if you're doing like an outdoorsy, like a hunting lodge, or you have a separate property or something, and you want to put that kind of stuff in there to impress your big shot friends or whatever, maybe I don't know who has that kind of money, but if you can afford a whole second house with whole second furniture, put your unfinished furniture there, I guess. But I don't want it in my house either, like pretty much at all. Some of it I liked the look of it, yeah, like I said, but I would have wanted to. I don't know that I'm adept at refinishing it myself, but I would definitely want it refinished. The next was the barn doors. I guess I've seen some done better than others. I guess if they're like white and they blend in, it's better than the unfinished, dark, heavy wood thing all of a sudden in your modern living room again. Because most of the time it's not in an old kind of farmhouse kind of house. It's in a modern condo looking house. The next one was poorly flipped furniture. I had a neighbor who was kind of getting into this, and I don't know, she fell off her horse and broke her neck or something, so I don't know if she kept doing it. So I don't have any good examples of if she was doing it well or not. I was going to consult with her and try and do some pieces with her, but then she injured herself, so I don't know if she's doing. And I'm not totally inept, but I'm not super handy with, woodworking tools and that kind of thing, so I'd want somebody to kind of help me out, like where to make the cuts and all that kind of thing, so I don't accidentally cut it the wrong way. And like I said, I've done some kind of projects that came out okay, but I never had enough time and resources to really get into it. I built, well, you can't see it unless I grab, well, you're gonna see it. Sorry for the delay. I built this, my pirate chest, at work one year, and I finished it off with this wallpaper because I didn't know how to stain it and stuff. There was an easier way to do the top. I'll take photos of it and put them in the community menu later because it's not really an easy piece to show off. The lid weighs 5,000 pounds, though. Let me show the lid. I didn't do the lid in a traditional manner entirely. So it has a double layer because I didn't know how to do the thing. And it has a double layer down here and a double layer up here. So that makes it extra heavy. And then this is just a skin stretched over top. And it does have a latch and two handles. So I can't, I can lock it. And the sides and the top, I did nails after I did the screws. Most of it I screwed. It's really heavy right now because it's got stuff in it, but it's also a very heavy wood. It's this Russian birch or something. Wait a ton. So if I was a real pirate, I would want a much lighter box with a much lighter lid. And the lid is way bigger than it needs to be. A typical lid would be a much more gentle slope or whatever. Mine's kind of a big silo shape, as you can see. So that's one of the things that I built. And I built another box that I never did finish the lid for because I ran out of the wood. And so that just has some odds and ends in the garage, but it never got the handles applied. It never got the hinges and all that. So like I said, I'm not completely inept. I built a thing that works, many, many years ago when I had access to all those kind of tools, and it's not as pretty as it should be, and da-da-da. One of the things that I saw that I kind of want to do is I got these wooden chairs, but the legs are messed up. And so I kind of want to make a bench out of that. And I haven't found anybody willing to work with me to make that into a bench yet. But it's not my idea. I've seen other people make that kind of bench before. So I would just be stealing their design. But again, if you don't know what you're doing, it's really easy to flip that furniture badly or just paint it in really ugly color. Then the next was multi-purpose furniture. I'm skipping a bunch of her categories. I haven't really encountered this the way she was discussing it. Again, some of the stuff like a bench that's also a place where you put your blankets and stuff inside. I wouldn't be so much opposed to that. I mean, that concept's been around for a long, long time. I think some of it is bad and some of it is better. Like I said, I don't necessarily have a good place to put stuff like that, but I wouldn't be opposed to it if I could. So that was kind of a double. And then the last one, this is going on a little bit, was color coding the books. I actually color code my books all at 100%. So I totally disagree there. The bit about the turning the books backwards so you only see the pages for the more neutral look. Yeah, I thought that was dumb. When are you ever going to find that book? I think I talked about that in another video way back when. But if you're doing something like this, like I've seen them on reality shows and stuff where they've done that, and it's obviously because they're filming and they don't want it to be distracting, and they're not trying to promote any specific authors or books on the channel and the program. So I'd probably told the contestants or participants or whatever, you have to turn around your books for the filming. Whether or not they leave it that way all the time, I don't know. I would never do that. But my regular books, even if they are trade paperbacks and they're not that attractive in terms, again, it doesn't look like an English Oxford University library. Even my bookshelves, they're all a hodgepodge. I have like one shelf of nice old books, and they're not even that old or in that good of condition because I bought them all used. Most of them came with a dust cover that I just don't have anymore, so that gives them that more classic book look, but they're not leather bound valuable editions or anything. This one's easy to get to. I've shown this one before. The complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm positive this came with a dust cover before I bought it for $5 in 1986 or yada, yada, yada. But almost everything else I have on the shelf, it's typical stuff like this. These aren't as gaudy as some of the other ones in the other room with the pinks and the yellows and I do have a lot that I found that are kind of a sky blue, so they all go really well together, but they don't have a real book look. Okay, so sorry for the delays there. But anyway, so that was the last one of that. Like I said, I skipped some of her categories just because they're not necessarily interesting to me. And you are mostly, if you're watching this far, I don't know if you're men or not, but you're definitely adults and not college students or whatever. Part 3. So moving right along, Fuzzy. So yeah, I don't have, again, more visual aids and such. This is 2 videos that were kind of a more philosophical difference maybe than the actual furniture choices and kind of thing. I'm not sure how modern and timeless mean the same thing when she was talking about her preferences. I suppose if I design a room, I can declare A+ status 2 works for me, because she was saying, oh, I made this room, it's A+, and then she went ahead and added more, which zhuzhed it up further somehow, with an extra pop of color that was, I guess it worked for the situation, but it wasn't necessarily the way I would have gone, because again, I would rather have a much more subtle coastal cottage thing where white trim and white furniture are your accents, not bold pops of whatever. Like if this wall was more of a slate gray instead of a matte white, I might be a little happier and less inclined to put up so many posters, because then a simple painting would carry, boat art done, or if you want a little more of the real granny look, the more pastel color wall, the light blue or the eggshell greenish kind of thing. And then instead of boat or old boat, wooden boat, instead maybe sailboats, white sailboats, New England kind of look, or the Carolinas or whatever, or seagulls, shells, pictures of that kind of thing. Photographs instead of paintings, maybe. Although the older I get, the more I kind of really dislike photography in a lot of settings. I've talked about this before. Also, really depends on what it is, really depends on the space. If you're in your office and you want a picture of, your wife or your wedding or your kids or whatever, that's like a totally different thing than, the living room in a sense. I mean, but a lot of people put those pictures in their living room, but they usually put them in a weird way because they don't know what they're doing, but they want to, but this was the thing. Yeah, we know that was the thing, but it's not usually a big focal point. It's usually a kind of a whole shelf full of random stuff, and nobody can focus on the important one because there's 10 other less important ones. Not that your kid, the picture of your kid doing baseball is less important than your wedding, in some quantifiable way. But it's again, a smaller picture. It mostly means something only to you. Your visitors don't really care about that. They know your kid or they don't know your kid. They're there to see your kid or they're not there to see, you know what I'm saying. So, like I said, I don't want to nitpick too much because we're trying to make this a shorter video, but I think you get my point. I am likely never painting a single door ever, but I kind of wish I could paint one that somebody else painted first and such. Yeah, this is when I or you inherit the previous owner's quirks and don't always have the time or the wherewithal or the immediate need to rectify them. So this would require extra work slightly a bit in some other spot where you're not focused. again, to try and make a thematic unity thing where maybe it will never exist. I don't know. The colors they choose, and some of the things I thought were effeminate for a boy a bit, perhaps. But in this case, I like Babar and Winnie the Pooh. So since this was a children's room, it wasn't an issue where I had to go at them as much. Whereas, like I said, I thought the red accents were a little more meh for my style. So yeah, there wasn't that much about that after all that I thought there would be. And then there's this Irish poem that I maybe read before that I'll read again since we're talking about farmhouses and things. 'Tis an old deserted homestead on the outskirts of the town, where the roof is all moss covered and the walls are tumbling down. But around that little college do my brightest memories cling, for 'twas there I spent the moments of my youth, life's happy spring. Thank you, Paul Lawrence Dunbar from, well, he lived in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and there was a photo of an abandoned cottage at Bolus Head, County Kerry. So that was nice. When I saw that photo and the accompanying poem to inspire me. Okay, so 40 minutes almost. That definitely 20 minutes longer than I thought. So, okay, Super Bowl Sunday, and happy whatever you're doing, and boycott Tinder probably for sure. Try and get your money back if you're in a grace period. If you're like serious, like I said, if you're already committed, then good luck finding an actual match that their database might provide if you're lucky. I didn't go into the website. It had, I thought maybe it had free options, and then when I saw it had like 3 different tiers of money, but wouldn't tell me what those tiers of money actually cost. I did not bother, but I have other complaints that, again, are not really for this video necessarily. And I think I have a legitimate case, although I'm not an attorney, so I don't know how to draw the line at class action suits for actual consumer fraud or anything. So I can only make loose allegations, if any, but I think that if you are serious about finding, again, true romance or true love or true relationships or true marriages, you might be just operating at a loss or getting hosed entirely on that kind of thing. Sorry, doom and gloom, but that's my Valentine's message in my decor video. And again, not the video where I can offer other, suggestions or tips or really talk about dating and that kind of thing. Not gonna do that here. Again, definitely, as always, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I welcome questions if they are legitimate questions that, where, some of the things I wish I could clarify better. Maybe you'll jog my memory and I'll remember what, but chances are if I watched that video 2 or 3 weeks ago, I don't remember what they were talking about, and I'm not going to watch it again. But other things, like I said, kind of, I don't know that much about woodworking and that kind of thing, but I do know a bit about, what I think works good together and goes good together. And again, this is not necessarily the room I would design if I was designing a room for purposes other than YouTube. This is just kind of extra furniture and leftover posters and stuff. So take it for what it's worth, I guess. And of course, again, I did get that buy me coffee link that hopefully some of you will want to finance my projects or whatever, or help with that, however that goes.